So we're on page 210 in the Maimer vyadata. The Maimer, as I've said over and over, but it's important mentioning how important it is for our overall understanding of Chassidus. This verse, vyadata hayoim v'shavois elovecha, is a fundamental verse in the Torah. The question is how you understand this pasuk of the Torah, right? When we read Parshas V'chanan, and even when we say Chitas, vyadata hayoim, you should know v'shavoisa, and we just say it. Chassidus makes of this pasuk an ikar in avodas Hashem. What is the ikar? What is that? It's not just enough to have faith in God. You need to have das in God, knowledge in God. And this is what the Rebbe, the Rabbeim, the holy Lubavitcher Rabbeim over 7 generations teach to the average Yid, to everybody. Because one is inclined to say very easily, faith. Don't bother me about levels and dargas and sfiros and oilamos. I think I told you that the Hasidim of the Tzemach Tzedek, the third Rebbe, would say, what's the difference between now and when Mashiach will come? What's the difference? By now, Moshe, you should know my stories. I repeat them quite often. No, and you see, you still don't know the stories, so I can repeat it again. It's fine. What's the difference between now and when Mashiach will come? They would say the difference is in the aha. Aha. What's the aha? Now we talk about God having 10 spheres in the world of Atzilus and Chochmah and Bria and all these things. We have no clue, no idea what we're talking about. It's words. When Mashiach will come, we'll actually see Atzilus and we'll see Chochmah, and then we'll say, aha, aha, that's what Rabbi Dalfin taught us on Thursday morning, the Rebbe's and the Rebbetzins anniversary, 92 years of their marriage. That's what he taught us. Aha, now I got it. So the Tzemach Tzedek's Chassidim said, this is the highlight of Mashiach is aha. The Rabbeim in their Maimarim on the vyadata hayoim are teaching us and hoping that we get it and we could say, aha, I understand that the fact that the sun is up and the moon and the stars and nature and even the supernatural, that's understandable. The vyadata, if I were to study, I'll understand that. I don't need belief. Why waste such a wonderful and important aspect as belief on that? And the Rebbe says here, different dugmos, different examples, just as you don't need belief to believe that someone is either alive or dead. You look at a dead body, it's a dead body, which, by the way, I want to send you a clip of what I saw last night. They reinterred a body that was buried 2 years ago because in Morocco, Rabbi Shalom Edelman. He was a shliach of the Rebbe and a massive Talmud Chacham, and he was in Morocco 60, 70 years. And he passed away, COVID, and they buried him there. And now, 2 years later, they just brought him to Har HaZeisim. You can actually see the body covered in a talus. When the body looks like it's intact. The same. 2 years later. What do you say about that? He's not a tzaddik. Maybe he was a Beinoni, but I'm saying, So, but the fact is, there's no life force there. It's a body. Even though it's a full body and a whole body, and obviously he was a person who refined himself, and he was a very special Yid. And the body shows that it's 2 years later and it's not disintegrated. Nevertheless, it's a dead body. Why? Because the neshama is not there. For this, you don't need faith. This is seeing. We need to learn Torah. We need to learn Chassidus so well that it it becomes as clear to us as we see something. In 1972, the Rebbe became 70 years old, right? He was born in 1902. I heard this from Rabbi Pekarsky in North Tel Aviv. He's a shliach there. He told me this. So after the Rebbe's Farbrengen, Yud Aleph Nissen, the Rebbe's birthday, after the Farbrengen, Rabbi Yoel Kahn, the Mashpia and the Chayzer, went with the Bacharim. He always hung out with Bacharim to a younger man's house, a newly married guy. His name is Rabbi Rifkin. He's the shliach in New Orleans today. Okay? And they had a Farbrengen, and Rabbi Yoel took quite a bit of mashke, and it was a very animated Farbrengen. So Rabbi Pekarsky said that Rabbi Yoel took his knuckle, he took his own knuckle, and he started to bang on his forehead like this. Look. Like, you have to learn Chassidus until this physical forehead understands and feels Chassidus. If this physical forehead doesn't get it, you haven't learned enough Chassidus. And you talk about Rabbi Yoel Kahn, right? The master of Hasidic knowledge in the world. There was no one that had more understanding of Chassidus in the entire world. That I guarantee you can go to the bank with it. Okay? And nevertheless, he says in 1972 that this has to get Chassidus. That's vyadata. You understand? That's vyadata. That's not emunah. We're not looking here for faith. Velvel is operating as someone. Velvel wants to understand something. He has to study. He has to have dialogue with other doctors to try to figure out how to help this patient. Praying to Hashem, of course, is the Ikar. God, help them. But we have to, in Seichel, we have to come up with a solution. This, Chevre, is a fundamental idea, the difference between Chabad Chassidus and other Chassidus. This is relevant to the time, to Yutes Kislev. Chabad Chassidus demands understanding. It's not adequate just to take a piece of cake from a Rebbe, to wave your glass, and to come once a year to have a private discussion, or for the Rebbe to give a bracha when your son or daughter is getting married. In fact, in Chabad, it was despised. Chassidim, the real Chassidim, wouldn't enter to have Yechidus until they had several years of preparation before they went into Yechidus. My wife's grandfather, it's on a video, you can hear it from his own mouth. He says, in 1925, his mashpia, or 24, his mashpia, Reb Chatzah Fagin, Reb Yecheskel Fagin, said he wants him to come along to the Rebbe for Rosh Hashanah. And he was going to pay his ticket. So her grandfather said, I'm not ready yet. I don't understand the importance of Chassidus yet. And he came from a Lubavitch ancestry, but they weren't, Chassidim in which they, were learning everyday Chassidus, and they were in Chernobyl. They were near Chernobyl in a city called Brahin, which was a Chernobyl territory. So, Chabad Chassidism wasn't an active ingredient in the community. But he was a learned person, a smart person. He was 20 years old when his father, when he said, go learn instead of working or studying, go learn. And that saved him from communism. He says on the same tape, it's a must hear this tape. He's talking about a person who was born in 1904. He says there that his friends, he had friends. He says, we all read all the Haskalah books, all the books of, enlightenment. He says, and I got it. And they said, but there's one thing I said to them I don't agree with. Why must I become not religious? Why? They basically became not religious. He says, that I don't understand and see a need to do in order to be communistic. Yes.
I'm sorry. Could you say why? Who didn't become?
His friend said to my wife Zayda, Reb Zalman Serebransky. They said, you've read all the material, so you believe in communism. You understand with you understand with enlightenment. You understand humanism and all of that. Mute yourself, Yaini, please. So they said, why do you want to stay religious? Humanistic, a humanistic God and all that doesn't require religion. And Abdallah said, no, that I disagree with. I'm a Yid. I grew up in a cheder. I come from a background, and we keep Shabbos. I can hear the value in communism. So at that point, pretty much, he and his father decide he's gonna go enter the yeshiva at 20 years old. This is a full-grown man at 20, and he went to Rostov. And then the yeshiva moved over, and he went with the yeshiva, and he became a student of Rebbe Cheskel Feigen, Chacher Feigen, the Rebbe's mashpia and secretary. And then he said to him, he saw that he has a good keli, he has a smart, intelligent young man, so he wanted to take him to the Rebbe, to the Rebbe in Rostov, because they already moved from Rostov to wherever the yeshiva was, to Kharkov, I think, wherever it was. So he said, come for Rosh Hashanah to the Rebbe. Rebbe Zalman said, no, no. He says, why not? I'm paying your ticket. I'm not ready. I'm not ready. What do you mean you're not ready? I don't understand yet the importance of Chassidus. Gemara I know, Gemara I understand. It's actual, it's factual, you can touch it, you can smell it. What's these ideas of Hasidism and a Rebbe to have adherence and subservience to another human person who's not a God? I don't get it. I need more time. And he didn't go. And I think what he did was, so he said, give my ticket to someone else. The year later, you hear this? The year later, or middle of the year, he was asked again, and he went along because he already became integrated through the yeshiva, through the Chabad yeshiva, and he understood with his mind, not he believed, he understood the necessity of having a Rebbe to go to as a guide for your avodas Hashem. Now, I do want to say that that system really changed. That Mendel Futterfass, the known mashpia of Kvar Chabad from 1973 on, he basically was of the Shita. He pushed the Bachram to go to the Rebbe. He said, you are ready, you aren't ready, go to the Rebbe for Tishrei. And from then, it became a movement from Eretz Yisrael to go to the Rebbe. Why? I think Reb Mendel saw the generation is changing, and if they're going to wait to become more refined and more knowledgeable, they're never going to end up going. And he felt that the atmosphere of 770 and the Rebbe and Chassidim and a Farbrengen will elevate them. And he was 100% right. Because when you walked into a Farbrengen, trust me, when you walked into a Farbrengen with the Rebbe, whether you liked it or not, there was movement. There was some movement. From the physical 3,000 to 5,000 people, to the Negunim, to the Rebbe's Torah, to the Holach Yelech, we call that, to the back and forth, and Chassidim with white beards and gray beards and green beards and hippies and everything's going on in that one building called 770. The hodgepodge of Judaism, that moved you. Again, it moved you. Doesn't mean everyone became a chassid, they didn't. But it moved you. And even hardcore Litvaks, if they allowed themselves to come, they were moved on some level. So that Mendel, with his keen mind, he saw this, and he started to push and say, go, go, go. But it used to not be like that. In fact, the previous mashpia in Kvar Chabad, Rav Shlomo Chaim Kesselman, my father's mashpia, and by the way, they wrote a beautiful book of 500 pages about him, both in Hebrew and English, and I really urge you to read it. Reb Shlomo Chaim Kesselman, he was not for it. And he was against the Bachram going. He tried stopping my father and his friends from going. After a while, he capitulated. But he felt that, till you're married, you have to be in yeshiva. He was old time, yet he was very psychological, very smart, and he raised an entire generation. The head shluchim Rabbi Garelik of Milano, Rabbi Raskin of Morocco, Rabbi Sudak of England, Rabbi, and others were his Talmidim. They learned by him. But they came to New York in the 50s and they became, Chassidim of the Rebbe, and they went on Shlichus. So my point is that going back to the Maimon from vyadata, that it's not enough to say I believe. Belief tends to dwindle. If belief doesn't have the gas tank of faith, of knowledge, it starts dwindling. It's just like, let's say with us, if we don't learn for a week or two, it's harder to get back. It's just the way the world works. Emunah, if it's not fueled by seichel, it slacks off. And this is what the Rebbe said in an earlier chapter, or actually here. He says, Zeh keli v'anvehu. This is my God, and I will beautify him. Elokei avi, the God of my father, v'arei memenu, and I exalt him. Avi, the question is, Zeh means this. We learned the difference between Zeh and Koi, right? The prophets in Tanakh, what do they say? Koi Amar Hashem. So says God. Avram, why don't the prophets say Zeh Amar Hashem? You know what Chassidus answers? The Alter Rebbe in his Maimorim answers? Because there's a difference between Zeh, which is clarity, seeing something clearly, and Koi means like. It's not as clear. Why? Because you're not at the level where you actually see it. It's Koi. Just likes, just as. Koi Amar Hashem. Hashem says like this. He doesn't say Zeh Amar Hashem, because a prophet, a Navi, was not at the level of Moshe Rabbeinu. And therefore, since a Navi wasn't at the level of Moshe Rabbeinu, he couldn't say Zeh Amar Hashem. Here in davening, we all say Zeh Keli Vanveyu. This is my God, and I will beautify him. Really? I could say, you could say Zeh Keli Vanveyu? We see Hashem, says the Rebbe in the Maimah, yes. Because if you have Yedias, vyadata, it's to you, Zeh. And therefore, Zeh Keli. This is my God. In other words, I understand him. He's mine. It's not because my mother or father or grandfather or grandmother or my rabbi or my Rebbe told me that there's a God. Zeh Keli. I myself know that he is Keli, my God. Oh, if it's you yourself coming to that experience, then it's V'an Vehu, which is comprised of two words. Va'ani Vahu. Ani Vahu. I and him. When do you have the relationship of Ani Vahu? When it's I and him. When it's Zeh. When you've gone through the process of you yourself working it out and understanding it. But if it's Elokei Avi, if it's only the God of my father, meaning Yichus, pedigree, someone told me about it, all you get is V'arei Memenu. You get a God that's exalted. What do you mean a God that's exalted? That's aloof. That's makif. That encompasses. It's not in your kishkis. And this is the answer. One of the answers that people ask. Why is it that sometimes I don't stick with what I learned in my youth or what I was taught? Why does it dwindle? Why does it go away? And that's the answer. The answer is because you haven't yet reached a place of Zeh Keli. You've only experienced Elokei Avi. You went to yeshiva, you have a rabbi, a rav, and you learn even in a shir, but it's all being spoon-fed to you. Right? So it's wonderful. It's wonderful. You get a shir every morning, 4 days a week, in Chassidus, gewaldig. But to be able to say it's yours, you need to, on your own, rethink it, relearn it, ask yourself the hard questions, and come up with an answer, with a commitment, with a mahalach, a direction. Yes, Moshe.
You said something just a minute ago. ani v'hu, and it made me think about Hoshana Rabbah. In Hoshanas, when we say at the end of the paragraph,
Ani v'hu.
Ani hu Hoshiana.
Right.
I'm just curious. I'm just curious. But is there any connection with you saying that to this? I'm just curious.
I never thought of it. So first of all, Yasher Koyach for bringing it to our attention. Very good. Very, very good. And that's an example. I'm just saying, and I don't mean this to put you on a pedestal. The fact that you just asked me this question means that you paid attention now, and you paid attention when you said Hashanahs. That it's yours. You own it. And therefore, you're able to ask that question. You understand? I'm just saying. Look, we didn't ask that question because it's not palpable by us. We say it Hashanah Rabbah, we're rushed, we're who knows, and I'm just saying, that's what we're talking about. To answer your question, I don't know. We would have to, I haven't seen it. The answer is I haven't seen it. I haven't, frankly, looked into the commentaries over there of Ani v'hu v'Shiana. But if you allow me to think about it, I could say that I'll think about it, bli neder. And more so, Ani v'hu Hoshiana. I would want to understand and look at the connection between Ani v'hu and Hoshiana. Hoshiana means please help me. So B'pashtus, even just talking out loud now, if it's Ani v'hu, then you could say please help me. In other words, it's your experience. Ani v'hu means it's your experience. If it's your experience, then you can truly ask for help because, hey, I need help. I understand from within I'm lacking something, and I call out Hoshiana. If it's not Ani v'hu, then the Hoshiana is makiv, is cursory, is superficial. So I would say there is a connection, but I haven't seen it. But again, Okay, let's learn further the Mimer, page 210, the next paragraph. You should know today that Hashem, Hu Holikim, that the Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, the holiest name of the 7 names of God, it is Elokim. It is the God of nature, the same God. You would think that it's not. So the Torah that says in Vos Chanan that it is. The Hayediyah, the Hashem, Velikim Kulechad. To know the fact that God, Havaya, Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, and Elokim are all one, Hu HaMazayin HaMechazek Es HaEmunah. That's the food. Remember we spoke about the Re'ei Emunah. Moshe feeds us with food of faith. What is the Emunah? What is the food that feeds the faith? It's this concept of Hashem Elokim. That's the pill that you take to strengthen your emunah. Ukenal dayidei mozen gashmi machzikim hakoiches haruchniim. As we said earlier, through physical food, we strengthen our spiritual faculties, meaning of the moach, the mind, and the heart. Say so too. Through much knowledge and understanding of godly concepts, as much as one is humanly able to understand, this is the food this leads to a relationship and understanding of the deeper aspect of God that is not understandable. This is like an oxymoron. How can what's understandable lead to the non-understandable? But that's what we're saying. And that's as Yonason gave the example. The more water you pour, the oil rises to the top. The more knowledge, water is like food, right? It's drinkable, etc. It's eatable. The more knowledge you have, it creates in you a deeper relationship and understanding of what's unknowable. The Zehu, and therefore, says the Rebbe, this is now, he goes back to the Zohar, that he quotes the entire time, Leminda, One is to know, Moshe Rabbeinu l'stakola, to gaze, l'meyal, to enter, be'roza de mehimnusa, and the esoteric idea of faith. The hayediya eich lichneis b'seit ha'amunah, the knowledge which gives us entry to the secret of amunah, hine mahu, what is it? What is it? Hainu be'eze oifen. In which manner am I able to elevate, to climb, and to reach this level? It's by knowing and understanding that Yudke Vovke, the Havaya, Hu Elokim, is actually Elokim. The supernatural force of God is expressed through nature as well. V'yediyah Zud Hashem Elokim. And how do you know this? It says in the Pasuk, Moshe, vyadata hayoim, hu al yedei hayoim. This tight here is worth $1,000,000 or more. Look at this, look at this, look at this. How do you know that Hashem Elokim? It's through yom. V'hainu me'inyin yom. The Rebbe says it doesn't literally mean, of course it literally means today, meaning every day you should know God. But Avram, what we mean is the quality of Yom, the quality of day, the Kamay, next page. And he explains, 2:11. Sha'yoim koil yoim v'layla, just as day includes, a full day includes day and night. She'ein yoim she'ein leila imoi, there is no full day without a night that goes along with it. Kosov, as it says in Bereshis, vayiyera vayibayker, it was the evening, was the morning. Yoim echad, that consists one day. V'im heyoyis, although the yoim v'layla him hofrim zeh mizeh, day and night are opposite each other. Mikol mokum, nevertheless, hine davke b'ischabrus v'isachdus shneim, specifically through the joining and the unity of both together. Hu yom echad shalom, it creates one complete day. How can it be? Yom v'layla. Two opposites. Hillel, two opposites. V'im kain, if so, behechrich, loima, you must say, shebe'emes eina hofchim. Look at the way Chassidus looks at it. They seem to be opposites, but in truth, they're not opposites. Day and night are not opposites. Husband and wife. Type A, type B, type C, whatever type we're opposites. No, you're not. You come from, if you're in a marriage and it's a shidduch and it's bashert and all that, you're not opposites. It seems like you're opposites. One is night and one is day. You're not opposites. V'lochein maskirim midas laila bayom umidas yom balayla. And therefore, we mention, the Gemara says, we mention an aspect of night during the day and an aspect of day during the night. Shein kludem zeh b'zeh, because both night and day are included in each other. Uvehasachdu shneim, and when both come together and join, hu yoim shalom, we get one complete day. Kach, so too in the moral, listen to this. You should make your heart be attentive. To what? Just as in time. Day, a full day is comprised of the joining and the unity of night and day. The Yom V'Layla, who Yom Shalom, night and day is one complete day. V'Hainu, the Hashlemus, that completion, wholesomeness comes miskalu shneim dafkim, from both being incorporated and included in each other. Right? You know how you get complete wholesomeness in your life? When you and your spouse see things differently and you're married and you live together and you're happy and you work it out. Yes, Hillel.
That's right.
Hillel, go ahead. Okay, Yoni.
No, that's what I said. That's what they say, opposites attract.
That's right. But it's deeper. Not only do they attract, they create the wholesomeness. Yes, Hillel.
I don't remember exactly where I saw this, but the idea is that Hillel and Shammai brought that relationship was the sort of the tikkun that like mankind was working for through Cain and Hevel and Yaakov and Esav and the Shvatim and so on. The tikkun where those kolchos could be supportive and help each other.
Correct. So I want to go back to the Taich over here because it's so rich. Yonason. The Vyadata Hayom, you shall know today. So literally means, in other words, every day you should know that Hashem will Elikim. The Rebbe teaches here, Vyadata Hayom. Vyadata, how will you come to a position of knowledge through Yom? Through the concept of a full day. What is the concept of a full day? Two opposites, which are Hashem and Elokim. And when you join and make from Hashem and Elokim one, Kul Echad. Remember, one of his questions at the beginning of Maimer is, what is the Zohar? Why does it say Kul Echad? The Zohar says it's all one. Just say Vyadata Ayoim, Ki Hashem Elokim. Zehu. That's enough. The Zohar adds the words Kul Echad. So the Rebbe says Kul Echad refers to that each one has the other in it. And that creates the day. That creates a full day, a wholesome day. Then you have the experience of Vyadata. So again, it's not a literal interpretation of the verse, but it's a magnificent insight into the psychology, the human psychology of how to become a wholesome person. Yes, Yonason.
Yeah, Rabbi, I remember learning in the Shiva HaTomim, the Daita, they talked about how abided Elohim. We were talking about an example of a snail. The snail got a shell and the soft part and the hard part. So where is the snail? It's the hard part or it's the soft part? It's both. When the snail goes into the hard part, at least to the hard part, he doesn't see the soft part. But really, it's one thing.
Yes, thank you. Very important mimer of the Rebbe Rashab. The Rebbe Rashab said a mimer in 1897, Vyadata Hayoim in Moscow, in Moscow, and in Chabad, in the Chabad world, it's a highlight known as Vyadata Moscow. When you say Vyadata Moscow in the Chabad yeshiva, and the Chabad, world, it refers to the Maimon that the Rashab said in Moscow in 1897, and he discusses this idea at great length. This is called short compared to that Maimer. Does he bring actually that mushal in that Maimer? Does he bring that mushal?
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't, right.
We were talking about it when we were learning.
Right.
By the way, I just want to clarify something. The double nun indicating thread, I double-checked that, and it's a grammatical thing. Rabbi Yitzchak Ginsburg confirmed that in the book of Shah Yichud Ve'emunah, which he translated. So every time there's a double letter next to each other, indicates thread.
I remind myself also that the double nun is Nisan. The month of Nisan has two nuns. And the Gemara says, Nisan Nasu. Right? Two nuns. Nun, if the Nisan begins with a nun, and Nisan ends with a nun. So it's a Gemara. The Gemara says, Nisan, double Nisan. So that might be also an underlying explanation why the two nuns. But again, in Nisan, you don't have them next to each other. In the word Hizboinanus, the two nuns are next to each other. I'm going to leave you with this in Mitzvah Shem, and we'll pick up on Monday in Mitzvah Shem. Today, just one vart. Today is the 92nd anniversary of the Rebbe and the Rebbitzins' marriage, 1928 in Warsaw, Poland, and I could say I was there. How could I say I was there? I'm born in 1961. I was there in 2019 before the pandemic really, hit and was publicized. I was invited by my friend who married into Rabbi Lazar of Moscow, the chief rabbi and the head shliach of Russia. So you made a wedding there. It was a wedding that I don't think I will ever again see. It was $1 million wedding, I was told. It was fascinating. It was beautiful, beautiful, really beautiful. And on the way there, I said I want to stop in Poland, in Warsaw. There was a Shabbaton, and they asked me to be part of the guest speakers. And in addition to that, I'll get maybe to see my ancestors, where my mother was born and raised, and my grandmother. And with Hashem's help, it worked out. And I have a lot to say about it. And I really hope sooner than later I can go back both to Russia and to Poland, because there's a lot more that I need to explore there. A lot of fascinating history that if you can bring it alive, it's real. In fact, tonight, I'm right now here in Brooklyn, but tonight I'll be in North Miami, in Mitzvah, at the Chabad house of Rabbi Marlow Farbrengen on Yud Dalet Kislev, and telling them about what I saw in 2019 in Warsaw, where the Rebbe actually where the yeshiva was, and where the Rebbe had his chuppah, and the Kabbalah Sponim and the chuppah, and then in another location, the meal. And I went to both locations. Naturally, it's all rebuilt because 90% of Warsaw was bombed to the ground. But that general area is, according to the maps and people I spoke to, is the area. So today, Yudalid Kislev, and in Chabad, again here, like if you asked a chassid 100 years ago, Moshe, about this day, about an anniversary, they say, what are you smoking? Like who celebrates anniversaries? Who celebrates birthdays? Like, this is absurd. Like, this was never part of, the Jewish experience. Someone told me, he himself brought a cake to Rabbi Soloveitchik in Washington Heights. He found out his birthday, and he brought him a birthday cake. He knocked on the door. Rabbi Soloveitchik opened. He said, "What do you want?" He says, "Rebbe, Mazel Tov, it's your birthday. I brought you a birthday cake." And Rabbi Soloveitchik, in his good old brisk, he said, "Thank you very much, but we in Brisk do not celebrate birthdays. You got the wrong address, but come in anyway with your cake." And guess what? In Lubavitch, they also didn't celebrate birthdays. And yet, we celebrate birthdays today. We make farbrengens and gatherings, because the Rebbe said whatever you could do for Yiddishkeit, for Torah, to bring Jews together is a gewaltige Zach. In 1953, on today's day, there was a farbrengen. I think it came out on a Shabbos, Yudalet Kislev. And the Rebbe said that today is the day that I became bound with you, with the Hasidim. He means through his wife, who was a daughter of the Frierdiker Rebbe. Heint is der Tag, was hat mir mit euch mekasher gewesen, something like that. Today is the day that put us together. And that slogan and idea has become the call of the day. I remember hearing this the first time when I was 17 years old in yeshiva in 1977 or 78 from my mashpia at the time. I never heard it before. And it still rings in my head because it's such a sharp one-line idea. Today is the day that binds us. Now, what do you mean today is the day? Well, historically, the Rebbe married Rebbe Chaim Mushka in Warsaw, Poland in 1928, 92 years ago. And because the Frierdiker Rebbe was the Rebbe of Lubavitch, by marrying, even though the Rebbe was a great-great-grandson of the Tzemach Tzedek, he had his own independent pedigree going back to the Tzemach Tzedek. So he was a distant cousin, of the Frierdiker Rebbe, of the Rebbe Chaim Mushka. Nevertheless, the idea of becoming kind of Rebbe, which he didn't become at the time, but going into that domain opened up today. It opened up today. So it for us who study his Torah and learn his Chassidus and his Sichos, it brings to mind the importance of understanding what a marriage is, what a marriage should be, and how to better improve our marriage. And the answer is through the nekuda that binds two people together to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If you have that in a marriage, you have a good marriage, a great marriage. If chas v'sholom that's missing or it needs strength, then you need to do that, because that's the nekuda. And if that's and I've seen this, and I'm sure you've seen it too, I've seen this in couples, older and younger, where they could be so different, yom v'layla, like we just learned in the Maimer, but they have that nekuda, that ingredient is there, they're really in love, okay? They really are connected. But they can be outwardly so different. That's true. But the nekuda is what binds them, okay? The Rebbe and the Rebbetzin, I don't know if they were Yom V'Layla, but they were different people. The Rebbetzin, was a much quieter person, more homebound and all that. The Rebbe says he himself is more of an introvert, but the fact is that he was in the public eye since 1950 till he passed on, right? So for 44 years, he can't hide. No one lets him hide. I'll give you an example. In 1968, the librarian was up 6 in the morning, and he was going to 770. And he noticed the Rebbe on the porch, a few houses from 770, there used to be a dentist there. And he saw the Rebbe waiting there to go into the dentist's office. Why? He went 6 in the morning to see the dentist because he didn't want people to make a fanfare and everyone stands around. So he went when no one is around. This fellow happened to get up early and he was going to 770 and he said, hey, to himself, the Rebbe's on the porch. So you had to hide, kind of, you know what I'm saying? Let me live my life. Stop following me. Relationships, marriage, Yom V'Layla is if you empty yourself of all your shtusim, your self-aggrandizement and ego and I need this and I want this and I understand this, and you put that out, you throw it away, and you just live in unison, and you live, healthy. You live just simple. Let things flow through you. You'll be a happier husband, a happier wife, a happier marriage. So, there's times in the year that we emphasize different things. I think one of the things, we don't sometimes like talking about it. We're Hasidim, we're learning Torah, we're learning Daf Yomi, How about simple marriage? For yourselves, your kids and grandkids, just let go. Let go. And when you let go, you create a bond. And the Rebbe said that this bond is the day which brought him and Hasidim together. In other words, if he would have been kind of stubborn and held on to his youth and him being an introvert, he wouldn't be one with Hasidim, because Hasidim need an extrovert. We need someone to talk to us, to teach us, to vibrate with us. What do Hasidim have from you sitting in the Beis Medrash and to yourself? We have nothing. Yeah, we know that you're a holy person, a righteous person, a knowledgeable person, but we need hadracha, we need direction. So if you don't give direction, you're worthless. You're a good guy. Great, you're a good guy. I'll put you in a museum. There was once this great person. But for us to benefit, we need to have a relationship. So the Rebbe says that relationship began today. That relation. The same is true for children, our grandchildren. To benefit from us, they have to hear from us. You have to communicate, and don't be bashful. Tell your children what you believe. Believe me, there are plenty of things my kids disagree with me on, and that's fine. But one thing's for sure, they're not going to say my father didn't share with us his beliefs. And I'm sorry, I don't care what the new age world says. I believe that's what a parent should do. Should share. I'm not saying they should force. You shouldn't force, because it has to come. But let your kids know what you believe, because is right, because you were taught by good teachers and good parents and a good community. Share it. That's the whole purpose of writing. Why am I writing? Why do I encourage writing? Because I'm bringing to the world, and I look at it for the next hundreds of years, what I believe to be good information that I received from my teachers. So I'm sharing it. Rabbi Steinsaltz did the same thing. He said, I can't be everywhere at every time. So I'll put it into books, and people can read. So in 100 years from now, you can, but you have to say it. So there are plenty of parents today that don't share with their kids their beliefs. And the kids, and frankly, sometimes there's an issue, like I say to myself, my kids don't know who I am. And it bothers me. It really bothers me. Children should know who their parents are. Now, you're going to say, should they know all of my deficiencies? Believe me, they know that anyway. Growing up with parents, they know your deficiencies. You can't hide. Anyone thinks they can hide is a fool. But then there is the positive things. You know, what were your struggles? You became a Baal Teshuvah. Explain your struggles. Why? You know, we have a phenomenon today where there are children of Bali Tshuva saying, I don't want to be religious. And they turn to their parents and say, hey, you were allowed to, take LSD or smoke dope or just hang out with girls and do whatever you want, and I can't? So you decided to become a Baal Tshuva. I don't want to become a Baal Teshuvah. That's a good question, and it opens up a good discussion. And if they hear from you what the struggles that you went through and how you came to a place where you made this decision, I think that will only bring them closer. Because they'll think about it. They say, look, my father, my mother had these issues as well. And nevertheless, they worked them out. So I too can work them out or attempt to work them out. So you see how one little anniversary of the Rebbe and the Rebbetzins 92nd anniversary is something that we could and should, Zeigazont, have a good day. It's something that we could relate to. Chevra, we did a little farbrengen, so you can't blame me. I didn't farbreng with you for your dollar Kislev. If they video the farbrengen tonight, we'll send it over. I don't know if they're going to have it on Facebook or YouTube, but we'll let you know. Meanwhile, have a great Shabbos. And remember, you got to prepare now. Rosh Hashanah is coming. Rosh Hashanah is this Monday night, Tuesday, Rosh Hashanah. So we got to take our haircuts, and we got to mostly take our haircut inside. We got to prepare ourselves, because the Yom Tov is coming. The Yom HaGodol v'Hanoira, the great, festive, awesome day of Yutes Kislev. When the Rebbe Rashab says, Oir v'chayes nitten lanu, light and energy was given to us. Could you imagine? The Alter Rebbe on the Yom of Yutes Kislev instilled in Yidden Oir v'chayes, light and energy. What more needs to be said? L'chaim, have a great Shabbos. Take care.
Shabbos.
Shabbos. Bye-bye.